Hello everyone, today we're gonna be discussing the patch 12.02 that is gonna be in the game starting tomorrow. It has significant buffs to Harbor. Will there be enough? That's gonna be discussed in this video. And there's gonna be also nerfs to Reyna. Will that be enough? I'm gonna share my opinion in just a moment. Now, don't worry if you missed something in this video short that was shared from VALORANT Japan. I'm gonna be discussing all the changes in a second. I'm just showing you visual aid to some of the changes that are made in the game. But overall, is this a good patch? I mean, it's something, you know, it's something. There are some changes I didn't fully expect, like any changes to any agents at this point, to be fair. But now this is actually maybe even significant enough for Harbor to actually be more played. We'll see. But now let's jump to the actual text. In the patch notes 12.02, we have some agent updates as well. Certain agent ability deployables can now be concussed, so stunned. Wingman, Skye Seekers, so the ultimate from Skye, and the Boombot from Raze can all be concussed, which means that they're gonna be moving slower. Now, this is legit just a nerf. There's nothing else to say about this. Those three characters are now nerfed because one of their utility pieces can be stunned. Is that very significant? Not. It's not, but it's like still a nerf. Now, when it comes to Harbor, let's take a look at what the developers said. What is the reasoning here? Harbor could use a little bit more power compared to the other controllers. I would just like to remind you that he already got a rework, then he got a buff, and now he gets getting another buff. That's how bad was he, like, that's how bad the state was of Harbor after the rework, that he already is getting a second wave of buffs. We're looking to increase the baseline power of his abilities as well as increase the amount of options Harbor has, whether that is in Cove, Uptime, High Tide coverage, or Reckoning placement. We want players to feel confident about the strategies Harbor can offer through his abilities. Cove, cooldown decreased from 40 seconds to 30 seconds. And I would like to stop for a moment over here, because this is quite upsetting to me. Now, why is it upsetting? Am I upset that Harbor gets better? No, that's not the problem. I'm happy that he is getting a little bit better. I think the entire rework was completely botched and was definitely not in the good direction. But what annoys me here is the fact that I think 4 patch notes or 5 patch notes before, we got a huge article attached to the patch notes that was explaining to us how important it is that the players can have a certain understanding of the cooldowns and durations of utility in this game, so they are like they can react faster. Like, for example, all the stun durations are unified, but actually they are not, because still Skye is the only character in the game that has 4-second stun on her dog. Now, not a single other utility piece in the game had a 4-second stun apart from Tejo, that was now nerfed because they added the damage to his stun, but still Skye has a 4-second stun. So there's no unification there. And then we had the changes to all the signatures, right? So all the spells, all the utility pieces, like, for example, all the smokes from Clove, from Omen, from Astra, they all got increased cooldown to 40 seconds to unify them across the board, so people can easier learn when someone can use another smoke. The same went for initiators, right? And when that change was discussed, I said I don't like this change because it literally limits the amount of options that you have when it comes to nerfing and buffing characters, but it also just dumps down the game. Like, that's first and foremost. Like, we should not have a unification. Not every single piece of utility works exactly the same way. They do not have the same values. They do not have the same estimated value that you will get in the game as well. So you have to balance it out by different numbers. Unifying cooldowns is just dumping it down, and certain characters will just be straight up better or worse because of the unified cooldowns. So now with this change being made to Harbor, they are literally contradicting the entire ideology that was introduced in one of the previous patch notes. So, will we gonna get now different cooldowns on the initiator signatures that was introduced in 11.08? Will we have now Sova at 50 and Fade at 55, for example? Because that's one of the ways of balancing the characters. Like, it's what really annoys me here is that this is not being spoken about, because this is now an aspect of the game that I don't understand. What is the direction? Like, are we unifying the utilities or are we not? Anyway, rant over. Next point. Smoke duration increased from 15 seconds to 19.25. So exactly to the same duration as the brimstone smoke. Is that a good change? Yes, it is. Health increased from 500 to 625. That's gonna be funny. So with 500 HP of the Cove, you have to shoot 13 bullets of the Vandal or the Phantom. Now is that increased to 625. For Vandal, that's 16 bullets still. I mean, sorry, so plus 3 bullets that you have to shoot into the Cove to destroy it. But now what's funny is that for Phantom, I'll show you something. We'll take out the calculator and I'm gonna show you, like 16 times 40, right, is 640, which is gonna be enough to destroy the Cove in 16 bullets. But now let's take a look at Phantom. 16 times 39, that's the damage of the Phantom. 624. I wonder if the Cove will literally be at 1 HP if you shoot 16 Phantom bullets. It just looks like a oversight, but I'm gonna check it in the game when it's gonna be live. Harbor now, that's again a straight up buff, and it's even more significant in pistol rounds. Like in pistol rounds, the Cove is almost indestructible essentially. Harbor now re-equips his gun faster after activating the Cove. Now, I don't know which speed they went for. This is a straight up buff for sure. And in this case, you're gonna be having a little bit more, let's say, dexterity-based decision-making around activating Cove, because maybe you will not be limited to the amount of time, like when you die, when you activated the Cove and someone was just in front of you, right? So this is also a good change, but I don't know the exact timing. Have to check in the game. Storm Surge. Storm Surge now plays audio in the ward if the enemies are hit. And we have seen this over here. So you get an information when someone is hit with the Storm Surge, and you can remember that in the previous patch, they buffed Storm Surge by being able to hit through walls. So now you're gonna be able to do is you're gonna be able to check a corner that's in front of you, but you don't even have to throw it around the corner. You can just legit just check a specific angle with your grenade being thrown outside of that wall, right? So it's pretty significant buff. It allows you to check corners, which you couldn't do before with the auto grenade. So now Storm Surge is actually useful. This is like a really good piece of utility now that should allow you to get a kill in most of the cases. When you get the information, you can pre-fire and the opponent is, like he is also deafened and nearsighted, although nearsighted in current patch is not really that great. So because of the increased distance that you can still see, right? So but it is an information, so suddenly he has that as a character, which is very significant. Now with the high tide, wall height increased from 6 meters to 8 meters. I might be wrong, but I think this is literally now the height of a Viper wall. Does it change that much? Not really. Like it's very insignificant amount of times where this can be actually meaningful. I think the only meaningful positions that are right now in the game could be like breeze on mid when someone is in nest and looking down on the bottom mid, or for example when we would still have ascent in the pool and we would play on A and someone stands on heaven and there's a harbor wall coming in from tree. Like that could probably now affect in some cases, but again, it's a good change. Max wall length increased from 50 meters to 60 meters. That's a good change, but at the same time, remember that the harbor wall doesn't get activated and starts building up till it finishes the movement. So this essentially delays your activation of the wall if you let it go. If you cut it with your right click and you end it earlier, then you manually get it up. But still, this is kind of a nerf. I know. Oh, this old man is again complaining and doesn't understand numbers. Number bigger must be better. Not in every case. In this case, when you need to act fast, increasing the length of the wall actually makes it activate later, which is a direct nerf. Reckoning, so the ultimate, wave speed increased by 25%, which is significantly faster. and now can reuse the ultimate to stop it in place for 7 seconds. Now that is a very significant buff. It's not gonna be used, like you're probably not gonna see it in VCT for almost ever, maybe if ever, but this gives you a potential outplay mechanic, because remember that Reckoning Wall gives you near sight, and when you can design yourself what is going to be the distance between you and the opponent because of the wall like ability to be stopped at some point, you can have a possibility. You know what, I'm going to show you on VALORANT how would I do this. Let's take, for example, Heaven on A, or C actually, because that's gonna be a very common scenario. Let's say the spy is in the default spot on C, like for example here. We're gonna take the harbor. Where's harbor? Harbor's here. He's gonna come to defuse, and now he's gonna use Reckoning, and we're gonna stop the wall, right? We're gonna stop the wall. Can we do it manually somehow? No, VALORANT doesn't have that, of course. So anyway, you know what? We're gonna use a different... Oh, let's do it like this. I'm gonna use the wall. I'm gonna make it move, and I'm gonna stop it, for example, here, right? And then I'm gonna go to defuse. Now, typically, I would say, please use your smoke to make sure that you can defuse. But in this case, you actually don't want to, because the ultimate is gonna get stopped at this line over here, right? Over here for 7 seconds, which is enough for you to defuse. And now when opponents would like to cross the wall to see you when you're defusing, they will get nearsighted, and now they're not going to be able to see you because the distance is going to be over 7 meters, because you could design it that way, because you know when to stop it to make the distance actually matter. So now you can bait people into peeking out and getting easy kills, because you're able to make them do that, or they have to blindly spam for the wall. So this is a very significant change, but at the same time, how often will it matter? You probably will not use the ult that often in a clutch. But anyway, this is a great change, and you're gonna be able to be creative with this during executes as well, because now you can stop it at a certain point. I don't know if it actually stops naturally. You know what? Let me check. Does it stop naturally on the clip? Where do we have this? Here. The Reckoning. Let's see. Oh no, that's the wall height. That's the wall distance. Okay, so this was here stopped manually. So actually, we don't know if it is gonna be stopping at the end of the journey. I would assume that it's gonna be stopping by itself when it reaches the end, but who the hell knows? So we're gonna have to check that in the game, but it is a significant buff. Now, let's stop a little bit here and talk about is this enough? No, this is not enough. This is not enough because he still has problems with the amount of smokes that he has available. He will never be a primary controller for a, let's say, default way of playing the game. You will need someone else to be a secondary controller for him. Now, the meta game, though, is exactly that. You can play double controllers on most maps. And I would argue that the best compositions, in my opinion, right, in current meta game, in current map pool as well, benefit Viper plus Brimstone. But people don't want to hear that. I would literally play this Viper plus Brimstone on almost every single map, if not every single map, even on Abyss. It's super strong. But Split, Corrode, you know, all the small maps, like I know it's Asset and Santa is not currently in the poll, but Bind is of course Brimstone Viper as well, but Split is just fantastic for Brimstone, Corrode is fantastic for Brimstone, Pearl is fantastic for Brimstone. There's so many things that you can do with the Brimstone, and I would never replace Harbor or Brimstone. I would not replace with the Harbor even after this buff. I would not do this because I don't think Harbor is strong enough or presents enough of like flexibility in this toolkit to actually be justified. But some teams might actually do that. Some teams might actually play like a Astra Harbor or like a Harbor Brimstone or like a, for example, Viper Harbor on some maps. And I would not be surprised if that's going to be the case, because for some reason VCT pro teams really like Harbor. I don't know. So I do think this is pretty significant buff. but it changes absolutely nothing for solo queue players because he's still not gonna be strong enough. And if you play Harbor in solo queue, then no one else will pick a controller. So if you want to have two controllers in your game, you need to bait someone else into locking down the controller, so then you can lock in Harbor, and someone will tilt because why do we need two controllers? And they're gonna start throwing. So, yeah, good change. Overall, a nice buff, but I don't think it's gonna be significant enough. But I do think the Storm Surge, the most important change here is the Storm Surge, because this is gonna be something that is gonna be applied the most with a significant impact. The smokes itself, it's like, you know. Anyway, let's talk about Reyna now. Reyna has been ever-present and dominating pick rates in ranked for a long time. We're looking to increase proactive requirements on Reyna after she gets a kill to encourage continued aggression. Wow, guys, 6 years of the game, and now we're actually gonna get a nerf on Reyna for the very first time. I ignored the nerf on the eye. Soul Orbs, passive, duration in word decreased from 4 seconds to 3 seconds. The ability description had incorrectly listed the duration as 3 seconds while they were lasting 4 seconds. The duration now accurately matches the description. Okay then. So, no one ever checked. Even though Reyna is in every single game. Okay. But yeah, does it matter? Not really. It really doesn't matter. Like, min-maxing the duration of the Soul Orbs is something that players in ranked never do. Sometimes you could see that at pro level when Reyna was waiting to activate dismiss at the last possible moment of the 4 second duration to gain space. Like, you could, let's say you get a kill with the Reyna, you're trying to enter a site, so you run 4 more seconds, and before the 4 second pass, you activate the dismiss and you go forward. So you min-max the distance that you gained. But people in ranked never do that. Devour, overheal applied by Devour is now temporary and lasts 10 seconds, because we got a buff at some point with Reyna when her heal was basically permanent, right? And it was overhealing on shields as well. So that's a thing. Does it matter? No, it doesn't. Like, it only matters for people at lower ranks when the heal is actually the more often option than dismiss. Because what really matters with Reyna at higher levels is the ability to not get traded. So if you're able to one-tap someone, dismiss, never get killed as a revenge, that's what Reyna is so strong about. Not the fact that she heals at a higher level, the fact that she can never be traded if used properly. At the lower levels and where Smurfs are, yes, this actually matters, because now this is gonna decrease significantly, I would say, the win rate of Reyna's at the lower ranks. That's what I would say. Healing applied while an Empress is still permanent, right? So that doesn't change. You're still gonna have permanent heal while ulting, and the Empress gets points increased from 6 to 7. The funniest thing is, around, I would say, 8 months ago, Reyna had a change to her ult, which is a buff, that her recoil, and this was applied to Brimstone as well, was feeling exactly the same way, even with the higher fire rate when she is in the Empress, right? Because I shit you not, this is not a joke. They made that change because the community is too stupid to practice. Legit. That's it. People were complaining and were not using the ultimate on Reyna while playing Reyna. I just want you to think that people were deliberately not using the ultimate because they were saying that they cannot control the spray well enough. That is a skill issue. You needed to go to practice range, pop your ult, and practice with the weapons so you know how to control it, because it was legit a buff if you knew how to control the gun with the new recoil. Riot changed that and made the recoil changes to the guns in Empress to make it easier to control, and there was still people in ranked, and I know because I met them, who never used Empress because they cannot read the patch notes, they cannot listen to anyone else because they have ego, and I was too stupid to actually have a cognitive experience, learning capabilities. So they were not, like, they never pressed Empress, and even if they did, they never realized that the recoil now is not changing. So I digress, but this changes nothing. the pick rates of Reyna is still gonna be exactly the same. It might dip in the first like week when people see just the graphic Reyna nerfed. Okay, I'm not gonna pick Reyna because she's nerfed, but they're never gonna reach the patch note, so they're gonna pick Reyna at some point anyway, and they will realize, well, that's not that much difference. And this will again, this doesn't change the pick rate at all. So I am massively disappointed, because I do think that Reyna is ruining the experience of the entire game. When there was 1 week when Reyna was disabled because of a bug, the game was legit better. And there were hundreds, if not thousands, of comments in the internet about saying how the game was more enjoyable when Reyna was not in it. And that's a fact. People, even when they don't talk about it too much, they do inherently hate this character, because how it dumps down the game and makes playing against her just unenjoyable. So I am disappointed because, first and foremost, she's in the game since the beginning of the game. She was introduced as the first character after beta, right, after the release. So it's almost 6 years now, and she was always getting buffs until this point. This is the first time I would consider this like a significant nerf, but at the same time, it doesn't change anything for the character pick rate. It will change the character's win rate at the lower levels, but not by much. And because of that, I'm disappointed, because for 6 years, we're gonna be still sitting in the same ranked spot, but now we also have Clove. They are just single-handedly also homogenizing the pick rates in ranked, making ranked just completely unenjoyable, at least for me, because every game is current meta: Clove, Reyna, Jett, Chamber. Every game. I mean, I'm exaggerating, but it's like, it's so often this exact composition that it doesn't matter which map you play, the game just feels samey. The meta game is just to abuse characters that can play off angles, and I know this is hypocritical because I play Yoru, and I do the same shit, but I just find Yoru fun, and it's complex, and it allows you to do so many creative stuffs, right? But other than that, people just don't like playing characters like Yoru because it's so easy to fuck up that character, while it's so much easier to play Reyna, Chamber, or Jett, or Waylay as well, and just abuse the same stuff, which is off-angle playing. And now with initiators being nerfed, you don't even get, tagged by any shit, because somehow, because of the nerf of signatures, Sovas and Fades just never use their eyes. So, yeah, overall, nice that they're changing something, but this changes almost nothing for the actual experience that we're gonna have in the game. And I hope we're gonna have significant changes going forward, more significant changes going forward. I would like to see a completed rework of Reyna. I would like to see a completed rework of Chamber. But yeah, those are significant efforts that have to be put into doing. So yeah, maybe at some point we're actually gonna get bans in the game, even though I don't think that's a good idea, but I would personally ban Reyna from every single game that I play. Anyway, thanks for watching, guys, and see you next time.